Okay, hey, the Lannisters always pays their debt. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite TV shows. And I didn't really plan to make this video at all. In fact, I didn't really put this video in my schedule at all. But I just kind of want to talk about this a little bit because it's been 2 months since the last episode of Game of Thrones had aired, and uh, it's just been announced that Game of Thrones is nominated for 30 something Emmys. So, I guess I have to talk about it. So, yeah, I just went to the dentist yesterday, so I'll try my best to speak. So, Game of Thrones is actually one of my favorite TV shows of all times. I love seasons 1 to 6 a lot, even though there are its flaws and its slow moments. My favorite is season 4 because every single episode is so satisfying, so rewarding, yet there are all these really epic and thrilling cliffhangers. There are all sorts of different fight scenes. The Oberyn versus the Mountain scene is just so shocking and intense. The scene where the Hound and Brienne are fighting, it's really, really brutal. And then there's the Joffrey poison scene, and it just came out of nowhere, and the setup leading towards it is fantastic. Even episodes like episode 1, or later on I think episode 7, when Peter Baelish just pushed, what's that woman's name? Down to the moon door. Like, whoa. Like, season 4 is just fantastic because it's full of twists and turns, and you can never predict what's going to happen next. You don't even know what's considered good and what's considered bad. And every time you watch a new episode, you're just on the edge of your seat hoping that your favorite character doesn't just die randomly, which is what always happens in Game of Thrones. It's a really brutal depiction of what real life is like. Good people and bad people just die left and right for no good reason. And same for season 1. Season 1 is very intense, but also really realistic in terms of medieval history. So, the medieval vibe of Game of Thrones and the twists and turns of the story and the character are two of the main things why this show is so appealing. And for seasons 7 and 8, it's not there. I mean, the medieval vibe is still there, but it's not much realistic anyway. We get the Night King, which isn't even in the books. And okay, so you know what? We have the Night King now. It's the big baddie, but then we still have Cersei hanging in the back, and then we have Euron Greyjoy, who is just a sleazy pirate who likes to defy rules. He's like the grade B Joker, more like the grade C Joker. And then we have season 8, the last season, and it has 6 episodes, which is already kind of weird because this is the greatest show of all time. There are so many characters and storylines. How are you going to wrap it up in 6 episodes? And the answer is you don't. You can't do anything with only 6 episodes. But it was D&D's idea. It was David Benioff and D.B. Wise's idea to make it 6 episodes. And I honestly don't know why. Even George R.R. Martin, the original author of A Song of Ice and Fire, wanted like 2 more seasons. And Double D was like, nope, 6 more episodes, and we can go home and do our next project, whatever. And it's just, the end result is a total unreasonable, predictable blob of mess that's sometimes really boring, sometimes just downright ridiculous. So we have episodes 1 and 2, which are pretty similar. Both of them are really long-winded, boring dialogue episodes. On episode 1, it's slightly better because Not only do we see Winterfell, we also see King's Landing. We see what's happening in Cersei's side. We see what's happening in Winterfell's side. Daenerys goes to Winterfell with Jon, and people are like, oh, is Jon betraying us? I kind of like that concept, that the people of the North are beginning to question Jon. Except they didn't really progress the storyline any further. Instead, we have this really just uninteresting romance between Jon and Daenerys that's just so uncalled for. And then at the end, Sam revealed to Jon that Jon's actually a Targaryen. And, and Jon did nothing about that. Jon did nothing about that. And then at the end of the show, I don't want to spoil it to you, but Jon didn't become king. So what's the whole Targaryen bloodline storyline for? Nothing. And for episode 2, it's actually considered the best episode of season 8. Yet I'm not a fan of it. It's just a really boring dialogue heavy scene. In the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones, most of the dialogue scenes are well written because there is a tension between these characters, and these characters themselves are really interesting. So seeing how the dialogue moves forward and pushes the plot inch by inch is always something really interesting to watch. But in Game of Thrones Season 8, pretty much all the dialogue scenes are unnecessary. You can cut them out and the plot will stay the same because they are basically all fillers. And it's basically characters one-to-one talking to each other, talking about what happened in the past. Oh, the nostalgia. Oh. And it's yeah, it's just 10 times more uninteresting than the dialogue scenes in the first 6 seasons. And then nothing happened in episode 2. It's the last season. It's the second episode of the last season. No one died. Arya had sex. That's it. And then we have episode 3, which is the Battle of Winterfell. And then we have episode 5, the Battle of King's Landing. So if you look at season 8, it's actually just 2 battles with a bunch of random unnecessary dialogue scenes around it, and occasionally some important scenes, but they're not really that important anyways. And honestly, oh man, I am gonna rewrite season 8. I'm gonna try. I mean, the way season 7 ended when Littlefinger got killed out of nowhere is already kind of an unnatural ending, even though it was a shocking death scene and I kind of enjoyed it. It's still kind of head scratching because isn't Littlefinger supposed to be super smart? So I was expecting the first scene of season 8 to be a random dude walking in the middle of somewhere, and he just takes off his mask and boom, Littlefinger's alive. That is the the scene that I've anticipated, but nope, nothing like that ever happened. And then we have episode 3, The Long Night, which is supposed to be the greatest battle in Game of Thrones history, and it's not because I can't see anything. No, but that's not even like an issue for me because hey, you can just turn up the brightness and you're good. The real issue I have with this episode is that it's boring. It's just a bunch of people fighting walkers, waves after waves after waves of walkers, fighting, screaming. Nothing really happens, and then we get this really jarring scene where Arya just sneaks around in a library, and then Walker started to read books for some weird ass reason. It's just not why, and then the ending. If you haven't watched season 8, I wouldn't spoil it for you, but it's just really anticlimactic. I mean, for a moment when it's building up to the climax, you can feel the suspense, you can feel the tension. It was really intense. The music was fantastic. The way it's shot, it's epic, and then you get the ending. It just came out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck, man? And then there's the crypt thing, which is already dumb in and of itself. Tyrion, Sansa, and Varys, and Natalie, Emmanuel, they're underground in some crypt or something. And then, oh, Missandei, that's her name. And it's just dumb because they could have done something on the surface, but nope. Double D is like, oh man, too many characters. Let's just trash some of the characters and put them in the crypt, and we'll just leave them there. And oh hey, it turns out there are dead people in the crypts, and the Night King can raise the dead, and logic. And Tyrion didn't even figure that out because his IQ just got reduced ever since he met Daenerys. So I guess there's that. Yeah, and while I really enjoy the first few minutes of the battle, where Melisandre just shows up out of nowhere and lights the swords and lights the trenches, everything else is just, and Jon Snow could have done more, other than just screaming at a dragon. Jon Snow could have done way more. At least give us a 1v1 between Jon Snow and the Night King. There's a scene where Jon Snow is almost approaching the Night King, and then suddenly all the walkers stood up around him and did nothing. And it's just really dumb. What for? And I mean, the Night King isn't even like a compelling villain or anything. We don't know any backstory about him. We don't know what are his evil intentions. And Bran, what the hell is Bran doing? Like, at the last few seconds before Bran almost died, he was playing Raven Simulator or something. Well, anyway, the second half of season 8 is actually better than the first half, in my opinion, even though it's even more nonsensical. At least it's slightly more enjoyable, in my opinion. Hot take, I know. Episode 4 is The Last of the Starks, and the first couple of scenes are, heavy emotional aftermath scenes, but then we get like 20 minutes of just filler dialogue and characters talking to each other. Oh, the nostalgia. And it's just and the second half is actually better. There's a scene where Daenerys gets ambushed by the Iron Fleet, which is nonsensical and stupid. Daenerys just forgot that Euron Greyjoy exists, even though earlier on the same damn episode, she talked about it. But hey, it's still a pretty surprising scene, and I enjoy it. Yeah, the scene where the boat is being attacked and Tyrion doesn't know what the hell to do is pretty great. But yeah, other than that, the ending I also find pretty heavy-hearted, pretty sad and tragic, actually. Again, it doesn't make sense at all, but it's a character death scene that I didn't expect to see, and I guess it's a good thing because it defied my expectations. But everything else about the episode just is just either boring or unnecessary. We have a scene where Varys and Tyrion kind of talks about cocks, making cock jokes, and I thought they're the smartest people in Westeros and Essos combined. Nope, apparently not. And then we have episode 5, which is incredibly controversial. It's The Bells. And initially, I super duper enjoyed this episode. It is the long awaited final battle of Game of Thrones, where Daenerys and Jon's army just charge at Cersei's army in King's Landing, and it's more of a massacre than a battle because the Golden Company is just so weak, which is just kind of disappointing because we are told that the Golden Company is great, but apparently not. But yeah, anyway, I still really enjoy The Bells because it is just so well shot, and how they built the entire King's Landing in Belfast. because they can't destroy Dubrovnik, right? So they have to rebuild it in Belfast. Amazing, just amazing. The fire special effects, people getting burnt alive. There's just so much hard work putting into the props, the set, the costumes, the makeup, the stunts on every single shot. So much hard work. Except it's all wasted on stupid writing by Double D. I mean, I really enjoy, I guess, the most part of the bells because it's just really intense, really stunning. But yeah, there are some really questionable character arcs in the episode, like Jamie going back to Cersei and them, their ending. Ugh. I think I can forgive Jamie though, because at the end of the day, Jamie is against violence, especially fire-related violence, and Jamie is all about family, and Jamie loves Cersei. Except, I really, except the transition between the good Jamie and the back to Cersei Jamie is just really jarring. And then we have Arya dying over and over and over again. In fact, in the Long Night, many characters die over and over and over again, and yet they live. And then we have the Hound versus the Mountain, the Clegane Bowl, and wow, that is probably the best scene in the entire season 8. It's intense, and the ending is bittersweet. It really achieved the bittersweet label. Other than that, Tyrion is just stupid, like really stupid. Like he didn't see Daenerys going insane coming, and of course we have Daenerys going insane, and I like the idea that she goes insane, that she goes mad. However, again, there's not much of a build up between the good Daenerys and the bad, insane Daenerys. It's all just really quick. It just happened in 2 seconds. Sure, Daenerys' friends died, and he's not the legitimate heir, but those are just things that may affect her. But the effect, where's the effect? Where's the linkage between these bad incidents and the changes in her personality? There must be a link in between these two things to make it seem destructive to her personality, to see her personality really realistically decay. But there is no connection between the bad and her personality. No. But still, I enjoyed the episode nonetheless. And Arya just goes off on a white horse, and then on the next episode, it's gone. I don't know why. However, on the next episode, the Iron Throne, the last episode of the show, it's fucking awful. It's just downright offensive. It's an absolute insult. And I'm not even exaggerating. I'm just ridiculed by how bad, how poorly written the last episode is. It's like Double D just gave up. They just gave up. Basically nothing happens on the last episode. Basically nothing happens other than, the final death. And the final death scene isn't even at the end of the episode, isn't even in the middle. It's just on the at the end of the first act, and then after that it's all filler dialogue. What? Bronn becomes the master of coin, and earlier in season 2, Bronn said that he doesn't know jack about interests. He only loves money, so it's not great, I guess. And Samwell Tarly becomes the Grand Maester, except he's not really that knowledgeable of a person, apparently. And who else? Davos is the master of ships now. Yeah, and then Jon Snow returns to Castle Black, and it's actually really poetic and poignant ending. I like that for Jon, and for Arya, traveling to the west, amazing. But then, come to think of it, Bran could have just told Arya what is west of Westeros. But I guess exploring the west on her own is the part of the fun. And Sansa becomes the Queen of the North, and we have the King of Westeros now, and it's stupid. It's stupid. I don't want to spoil who it is who becomes king at the end, but whoever became king did nothing. He did nothing in the show. Like, he did nothing. He just sat around and did nothing. He killed Hodor, I guess. I guess you already know who it is. And then Edmure Tully is still alive for some reason. And then there's a water bottle behind Samwell Tarly, behind John Bradley. And then Emilia Clarke's Starbucks cup is on episode 4, while Double D is busy playing Wildlings. Yeah, just one blob of mess. It's basically Double D just giving up and just phoning in, finishing off Game of Thrones, and then tossing it into the trash. It's like the homework you do on the bus on the way to school. Game of Thrones Season 8 feels like a 3-page long essay you would write in 10 minutes. It's just really, really disappointing. And I just can't wait to read The Wind of Winters by George R.R. Martin. Still, even though the writing is just absolutely atrocious here, I still enjoy a couple of scenes here and there. I enjoy the scene where Tyrion just throws off his badge, even though it's not smart at all. I love the scene, the first few minutes of the Battle of Winterfell. I love a majority of the bells. I like the ending and the boat attack scene on episode 4. I like the Brienne getting knighted scene. The Arya sex scene is actually pretty good, because we finally see Arya maturing and Arya choosing what's best for her life. But yeah, other than that, it's either boring or it's a filler scene, and nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense at all. Yeah, and Dario never returned. Quaithe never returned. Just no one ever returned from Essos. I thought the Faceless Man would show up at some point, but I guess not. So and Arya had this face changing ability, right? Well, I guess she never used that in season 8. Still, other than that, I think the acting performances are top notch. I think Lena Headey, Alfie Allen, I think Peter Dinklage, they are all amazing. I think Nikolai Coster-Waldau is amazing as well. I think the props, the set, the costumes, the makeup, the editing, the cinematography, they are amazing. Miguel Sapochnik is a legitimately talented director. But so yeah, 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10, no more, no less, maybe even less, maybe light 5, light to decent 5. I'll just put it at a 5. I don't really enjoy it all that much. I hate the writing, but at least everything else other than the writing is pretty fantastic. But still, writing is king. If your writing sucks, everything else about the movie wouldn't be as enjoyable, because writing has the number one priority in a quality TV show / movie. So, what are your thoughts on season 8 from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.